Hello everyone. So I hope you have completed the challenges for your course 1, and I'm here again with second course, which is quite exciting. So if you remember, in the first course we have looked into various machine learning algorithms such as supervised learning and unsupervised learning. In unsupervised learning we have looked into clustering and PCA, and in supervised learning we have looked into prediction modeling and then classifier algorithms, right? So now here we come with second course where we will be looking into math. So every time we work on machine learning algorithm, we always think what's happening at the back end. So in this course I'll be taking you through some of the basics of machine learning maths and the basic mathematics which we have learned in our school days to start with, because that would be the basis. Once we know all the basic mathematics what we have done in school days, then we will look into some mathematical intuition and the maths behind machine learning algorithms. So in this course, we'll be looking into some of the algorithms and the maths behind that. So get started. So again, this also has 12 weeks, similar to first course. Here also we have 12 sessions, and in first session we will be covering basic concepts such as sets, subsets, power set. So the reason why I have chosen these topics in basic concepts, because it would be good to know all these topics. Somewhere down the line in machine learning we might be using it, but how do we use it? In general we will be using it, but you might not be aware how we are using it. So let's go and check how we use this when we start with this basic concepts. And then permutations and combinations. Everyone knows that probability is the backbone of machine learning, and then for probability the backbone is permutations and combinations. And then in third again we'll be going with statistics, and then in fourth session we'll be going with probability. Here we'll be learning some additional concept apart from the probability what we have learned in our course 1. And then in fifth session would be on advanced statistics, sixth session would be on advanced probability. So once you get into those sessions, you will really get to know that yes, these are really advanced, and then it's very good to understand these topics as per machine learning, and then you would be feeling satisfied that now I know what's happening at the back end, how this machine learning algorithms are working. Okay, similar to the one, if you remember in my first course, I have taken linear regression in depth, right? I have tried explaining in depth, but I've never solved that problem for you guys like on the slides or on the Python. But in this course we'll be looking into the similar depths for some of the machine learning algorithms, and for that we need the basics. So we have to make sure that our basics are strong. Okay, and then in 7th week, so if you all remember in my first course when we were discussing about logistic regression, we have never discussed what is the cost function for logistic regression. We have discussed the cost function for linear regression, and then we did some analysis on the gradient descent part for linear regression. But if you remember, I told that it would be difficult at that point to explain the math and the log of odds and all the maths behind it for logistic regression at that particular point of time. So this would be the right time where I'll be explaining you how does this logistic regression works at the back end. Why only sigmoid curve, right? Everyone had that question in the previous course. So I'm happy that I would be able to answer now your questions in a better way. And then gradient descent again. So we'll be looking into gradient descent for both linear and logistic regression in this course. And here comes linear algebra. So believe me, just linear algebra, which we have discussed already, principal component analysis in our first course, the math behind that is quite huge. So please focus. This would be very interesting. And to get into that math behind PCA, I wanted to start with matrices, because matrices is the one which deals with all the math behind principal component analysis. So by the end of this course, I would say that you would be really satisfied to understand how does this algorithms working. And then there would be 10th course on derivatives. So till now we have not touched much of derivatives, but if you remember from my first course when we were discussing gradient descent for linear regression, we have done some derivatives, right? and that application of derivatives would increase as the time progresses. As you go into third course of this machine learning, which will be in future, you would notice that derivatives application has been increasing. So that's the reason I've thought that taking derivatives would be a better option. And then this is where you will be using derivatives, backpropagation. So backpropagation is an algorithm which deep learning uses, the advanced machine learning uses. And then again, as you remember that for every gradient descent method we use derivatives. Now similar to that, we have to do this cost function and gradient descent for deep learning also. And if you remember from my first course, that for deep learning we will be having intermediate hidden layers. So it would be quite difficult to go here and like from first layer to second layer to third layers, right? And that is where the backpropagation will help us. Backpropagation is one technique where we try to make sure that our parameters, our weights, I would say weights and bias, which we have learned in first course, it will try to improve those values so that we have a better prediction of our algorithm. Okay, and then 12th course would be basics, Python basics. I know that we have covered to some extent in our first course, but in this course we'll be looking into some more basics of Python and then what exactly we required to become a machine learning engineer with respect to Python. Okay, so to get started guys, welcome once again to the course, and I'm pretty much excited to go ahead and then take some of the topics of first course, which is sets, or I would say basic mathematics. Okay, so I will get started with sets. So please concentrate here, and before coming to this course I would request everyone to go through the first course. Okay, so what is sets? Everyone thinks like sets is a very simple topic, but believe me guys, you would see a lot of things in sets, because sets is the basis of functions, and then functions would be used in calculus, right? So it's very important that we make sure that our basics are strong. Okay, so what is set? Set is a collection of objects of a particular kind, right? Such as, I would say, a crowd of people, or it could be like a cricket team or a hockey team, or you can say that in a way that pack of cards, or maybe you can say the number of pieces in chessboard. So all this collection of the objects of a particular kind would be treated as set. If you want to understand in terms of mathematical language, just think in this way. If I want to come up with odd natural numbers less than say 10, then what are those odd numbers which are coming less than 10? It could be like 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, right? We know what are all odd numbers which are not divisible by 2. If I want to take all the even numbers less than say 8, what could be the set? It would be 2, 4, 6. Will 8 be coming in? No, because I told less than 8, right? So this is how we collect the objects and then we form the sets. How do we represent the sets? That will come later, but let's take some more examples. Say the set of Mercedes-Benz class. So we know that in Mercedes we have A class, B class, C class, S class, GLE, GLA. So there are a lot of class, and then you have to form a set of it, right? Or if I want to say that set of different components of an automobile, then fuel tank, heat exchangers, and then tires, wheels, knuckles, wishbone, brakes. So you would see a lot of different components, right, from the set. So it's a very simple thing which we are talking now, but then it's very important to understand those stuff, right? And let's do a very quick thing now to check what are the prime factors of 210. If I want to form a set for all the prime factors for 210. Now what are the prime factors? So again, you have to go into the basics of maths. So if you remember from school days, if I want to find all the prime factors, what we used to do is we used to take 2, because we know that 2 is an even prime number. So there is only one even prime number on earth, which is 2, right? So this would be 105. And then let's take 5, we would get 21. Let's take 3, we would get 7. So now 210 is represented as 2 power 1, 3 power 1, 5 power 1 and 7 power 1. So we have this many prime factors, right? 2, 3, 5, 7. So now if I want to represent that in a set, the set would be 2, 3, 5, 7. Now let's take a very simple example again and then say that I want to find the prime factors, say for 420. Then 2, 210 again, 2 again, which will be 105, 5, 21, 3, 7. So now it will be 2 square into 3 power 1 into 5 power 1 into 7 power 1. Now what's important here is, for 420, how would you represent the set? Will it be 2, 2, 3, 5, 7? Or will it be 2, 3, 5 and 7? How will it be, guys? So this is very important, guys. If people wants to take an interview in machine learning, they can ask anything on maths. You have to make sure that you know all this basic stuffs. So this is wrong. When you represent the sets, you should make sure that you have different elements, because what is the use of this 2 when already a 2 existing in this? Okay, so you have to make sure that you that we know all this stuff, and that's the reason I am taking this second course. Okay, now to proceed further, if I tell you know all these notations from your school days, but I want to revise this again. What is N? What is Z? What is Q? What is R? And then there are some more notations which I will not go into. So it's good that you explore a lot of other stuff. So what is N? N is a set of all natural numbers. So if you remember, whenever you see any questions on maths, you would see that, okay, if I write that x square plus 2 equal to 0 now, and say, assume I have an equation that x square plus 2 equal to 0 and x belongs to natural number, then find the value of x. Find x. Now you would see that x square would be equal to minus 2 and then x would be complex number. So x does not belong to natural number, and then you would say that there is no solution for this problem. Okay, so you should remember this kind of stuff where people can actually confuse us. What we do is we look at this question and then we'll solve the problem and then tell yes, the answer would be root of 2i minus root of 2i. So that's a complex number, but I don't want to get into that. But you should remember, what's the condition next to the question? The condition is x should belongs to natural number, so you do not have any answer here. Okay, right? Making sense? Now, one more question which I want to take here. X square minus 4 equal to 0, x belongs to n. Now, can you please tell me what could be the answer for this? So I will get here x square equal to 4, x equal to plus or minus 2. But what would be the value of x? Remember that the condition x belongs to natural numbers. So the answer would be 2, because we know that natural numbers are 1, 2, 3, so on, right? Even 0 does not come under natural number. When we include 0, that would be set of whole numbers. Okay, so now what is Z? Set of all integers. If I had written the equation here and then I would have written, instead of n, if I had written Z, then the answer would be minus 2 and plus 2. But if I had written only n, then the answer should be only plus 2. Now what is Q's? Q is set of all rational numbers. Rational numbers in the sense, any number which can be written in a form of P by Q, right? So for example, 3. 3 is a rational number. We might be thinking, where is Q now? Where is denominator in 3? Come on guys. So 3 would be, there is P by Q would be like 3 by 1, right? So you have P, you have Q. But remember, again, a rational number would be in a form P by Q where Q is not equal to 0. You should not forget the small conditions. Okay. Now what is root 2? root 2 is a rational number. If you check the value of root 2, it will be like 1.414, so on. It will be keep on going. You can never write that in a p by q form, right? So it is an irrational number. Okay, making sense? Now if I write say 2.5, 2.5 is a rational number because I can write 2.5 as 5 by 2. Okay, so now you know what is rational and irrational. What is R? R is a set of real numbers where you will be taking all rational and irrational numbers. Okay, so let's move ahead and then do some more different representations on sets. So I have a quick question here. Let's do that in next slide. So x minus 1 into x plus 2 equal to 0. Then find x. Then the answer would be x belongs to 1 comma minus 2, right? That's pretty straightforward, right? Great. So now if I ask a question, so for this let me finish the answer first. It's x belongs to 1 minus 2. That's pretty straightforward. Now if I ask a question, say that what is the set of vowels, then you would say A, E, I, O, U, right? Which is quite obvious. Now what we should know now is sets can be represented in two different ways. One is roster form, other is set builder form. Okay, now how do we represent in a roster form, which we have already looked? For example, let's take one more example. I want to find all the prime numbers, like x is a prime number and is a divisor of 6, let's say. Then we know that the divisor of 6 are 1, 2, 3 and 6 itself. So this would be a roster form. How would be a set builder form? That x belongs to, that x is a prime number. Okay, so x is a prime number and a divisor of 6. So that's pretty straightforward. So these are the two different representations which I thought it would be useful for you guys to know. Okay, now to proceed further on this, let's say if I want to come up with a, so you have to understand both the forms, roster and set builder form, because there can be questions when you work on real-time projects. There might be different ways of representing when people represent this kind of questions, right? Or represent any sets, right? So let's see some of the different types of sets now. Now if I tell what is finite set and what is infinite set now. So a set of months of a year, is it a finite or infinite? So it's pretty obvious now that finite would be the one which could be countable, right? So the set of months of a year would be finite. And if I write say example like this, a set which is something like, then you know that set of natural numbers which are less than 100. So you know that this would be again finite. But if I write something like this, then this would be infinite set. Okay, so this is one thing which I wanted to explain. The next thing is, which is very important as per machine learning also, finding subsets. Okay, remember this. So for example, I have again A, E, I, O, U. Okay, so I want to find the subsets of this. How many subsets I can find for this? So before going into this, let me take very simple example. 1, 2, 3. Because this has 5 elements, if I keep writing now, it will be like time consuming. So let's take example with 3 elements. So how many will I have? Taking one element at a time. And then taking 2 elements at a time. And then taking all the 3 elements one point of time. Now 1 element at a time, 2 elements at a time and 3 elements at a time, and then 0 elements, right? So that is called as null set. So now when I write this whole thing in a set, this is called as your power set, right? So now if you see, this power set would be a combination of different subsets. And how many subsets do we have in this case, which is 8, right? So now For 3 elements, I got 8 subsets. For 5 element, what would be the answer? So, for 3 elements, I got 2 power 3, which is 8. So, for 5, it should be 2 power 5, which would be 32. So, now if you notice, from 1 to 3, I am taking subsets. Instead, I can call that as samples in machine learning language, right? So, let's consider 1 to 3 is our population, and then I am taking different samples out of it, right? But in general, sample would not have an empty set, right? There cannot be a sample with empty set. Practically, number of samples would be 2 power n minus 1. So in this case, 2 power 3 minus, sorry, not minus 1, not here, it will be here. 2 power n minus 1. So it will be 7 in this case, right? And in this case, it will be 2 power 5 minus 1, which will be 31. Making sense, guys? Good. So this is very important, which we should know.